I have been given this scarf. If any of you know anything about Arabs in this room, I've been given this scarf to demonstrate to you the folk dancing I learned in Yemen. Oh no, oh, Jim just gave me the sign. Seriously, somebody lost this scarf, and I know it's a terrible thing for me to do, but if somebody would like to claim this scarf, we don't want to lose it because otherwise I will dance. Thank you. Every year, AAI Foundation, the Arab American Institute Foundation, gives an award to corporate bodies that demonstrate through their work and through their actions a commitment to social justice. Tonight's awardee for corporate citizenship has done admirable work that has been recognized all over the world by Academy Awards, by the reception given to their film, the quality of the production that they've had worldwide. And so we're very pleased to be able to honor Participant Media this evening. To present the award for corporate citizenship, please welcome Wajahat Ali.
All right, I promise I'm not going to dance. Arab American Institute, looking good. Looking good, guys. Give yourself a round of applause. My wife says I never wear a tie. I actually did not even wear a tie for my wedding, but I wore one for you, Maya. So that has to count. Yeah, I'll give her applause. Why not? All right. This is how I milk the crowd. Jim, sitting there for Participant Media, I'm going to give you such an awesome introduction that you're going to hire me as your publicist. All right. There's a good chance that you're already familiar with the work of our next awardee, Participant Media, which was founded in 2004 as a vehicle to create entertainment that inspires viewers to advocate for social change. A noble but often unrealized endeavor. However, Participant has succeeded. It's responsible for critically acclaimed and award-winning content, including more than 50 films, including Academy Award-nominated The Square, which is directed by an Arab American filmmaker, Jihan Nujaim. Give her that round of applause. And in somewhat breaking news, I'm excited to announce that Participant Media recently completed production on an animated feature film, Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet, based on Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. We can also thank the famous Lebanese poet for lending his name to tonight's gala. But in all seriousness, the power and the importance of this film will be astounding. Now, it's a given that Participant produces quality entertainment, but the reason why we are honoring them tonight is because they prioritize and facilitate social change by pairing compelling content with real-world campaigns that actually make a difference. Now, I know that the Arab American Institute Foundation, you, their friends and colleagues, have always recognized the great value of leaders of social justice. As a writer and journalist, the million-dollar question I always have to answer is, how do I continually craft stories that not only entertains and engages a global diverse audience, but also compels meaningful, positive action? Since its inception, Participant has used the power of storytelling to inspire others to tackle some of the world's most difficult issues. They have mobilized thousands to continue the dialogue started by their films and to address the most pressing social issues of our time. For example, global warming to the global water crisis. They're responsible for The Inconvenient Truth. You guys like that movie? Yes. I'm telling you, Jim, I'm getting this audience warmed up for you, buddy. Here's an example. One campaign in conjunction with the release of Food Incorporated, an amazing documentary which is more terrifying than The Exorcist, prompted nearly 250,000 people to petition Congress to reauthorize the Child Nutrition Act of 2010. Participant facilitated briefings on Capitol Hill, connecting their passionate viewers to the source of political change. That deserves a round of applause. When the sheer amount of injustices and causes that need our attention can be overwhelming, and we see this all the time, right? Too many burnt out Arab American firefighters. Participant has found a way to break through their audiences and bring clarity along with a sense of responsibility and the gift of empowerment. As our communities work to empower voices promoting social, political, and cultural change, Participant Media has emerged as a partner, a leader, and a source of inspiration. CEO Jim Burke is here. Jim, the work that you and everyone at Participant does is timely, it's relevant, it's meaningful, it's conscientious, and it's very much appreciated. On behalf of the Arab American Institute Foundation, I'm honored and pleased to present to you the 2014 Award for Corporate Citizenship. Congratulations.
This instrument can teach, it can illuminate, and yes, it can even inspire. But it can do so only to the extent that humans are determined to use it towards those ends. Good night, and good luck.
It is our time to rise again to secure our future.
I want to create a parliament.
This guy might be able to revolutionize not just his country, but the whole region. The real democracy rising up organically.
You cannot stop the water to flow across borders.
We must cooperate.
What is that state of Palestine going to look like?
If we start to look on the human side, we will totally have a different understanding about the conflict.
There's going to be better tomorrow for us. I have no question about it in my mind.
You said to write about what disturbs me, particularly if it bothers no one else. I'd like to write something from the point of view of the Help.
He was a good man, a good person.
Please, don't forget about me.
You can't win.
Whether you win or lose, you stand up.
It's going to be extraordinary.
Let's see if we can't find peace based on justice and fairness and equity.
We're stepped out upon the world stage now, with the fate of human dignity in our hands. Blood's been spilled to afford us this moment. Now! Now! Now!
Here we have the discourse of democracy, of freedom, of social justice being changed for all of us. And I'm extremely proud to be here for those reasons.
Once social change begins, it can't be reversed. We've seen the future, and the future's ours.
There are those who have the truth within them, only they tell it not in words. They think I'm their prisoner. But I've flown away many times. We are free as the wind.
President, the CEO of Participant, Jim Burke, is accepting the award.
Thank you. Wajid, thank you for those, that very nice introduction. It's always nice to have somebody say wonderful things about the place you work, and I'm very fortunate that I work in a wonderful place. You know, when this honor was really articulated that they were going to be bestowing it upon Participant Media, I was very, very excited for personal reasons and for professional reasons, which I'll touch on in a minute. And also when I saw the lineup, I was really excited because actually I had a long speech. I'm not going to read that, so I'm going rogue, if you don't mind. I took a couple observations that I just would rather just pull from. And so I just wrote a couple scratches next to some of the people who were
talking a little bit because I thought it was interesting sitting here. It's much more interesting for me observationally, and you've heard such a wonderfully articulate commentary so far, and you're going to hear some amazing things. But what was great about the program when I heard about it, especially, entertainment business, right off the bat, you must look at where you sit in the program. Seating is everywhere, right? What booth you have in the restaurant. And I was thrilled because if you look at the way this crescendos up, you start with, I'm sandwiched in between Martin Luther King III, right, and the Honorable Henry Kissinger. So you have both those people. It's thrilling for me. So I was blown away. But the nice thing is when you see, really, George's extraordinary comments, and I was blown away by his personal story, the conversation, and I thought to myself, I'm really in trouble. That's when the speech got thrown out because he's supposed to be the veteran bureaucrat that was going to bore you with a 30-minute diatribe about policy in some specific area of the Middle East of which you had already read, and he was going to show you how smart he was. And instead, what you got was this extraordinary personal commentary on the human experience. It was storytelling at its finest, in my opinion. So congratulations, George. And I also did want to say thank you to Gene. He is scares the hell out of me. I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen an event with 1,000 people start like it started this one. I started as a teacher, actually, in South Central Los Angeles. I was a music teacher and went up and became the youngest principal in the history of the LA Unified School District. So my background originally was education before going on to run the Grammys and Hard Rock Cafe and to help all the companies before participant. And it was amazing because Gene was like that great PE teacher that could just get 2,000 people in order right off the bat. And he's done an amazing job, really, in keeping this event going. This will actually end on time. Really superb job to our Master of Ceremonies. So congratulations to Gene. And the other person I wanted to mention, just the other observational comment is, the evening was basically over after Naya performed. Because to me, whether it's George or Martin, it doesn't matter, right? We're all screwed, right? At that point, she was just absolutely extraordinary. She was amazing, and she's the reason why everybody does what they do. Because when you see that and you hear that, and I don't know if any of you noticed it up in on the screen as she was coming up on stage. Did you notice what it said next to her name? It said violinist and. Did anybody else notice what was next to her name? It was student council president. And I thought to myself, how cool is that at that age, think about what's on your business card. That's what's in that, that's the type of people that we want in public service. Those are the types of people that are doing the type of stuff that she's doing. And she's just extraordinary. So my evening was really complete. This event is really quite important to me on a personal level. And it's important to me because I actually helped complete the joke of, the Christian, the Jew, and the Muslim. So I'm part of that. So I can help to do the joke that somebody will do at some point this evening. But my pathway here is kind of unique. I've actually been in the Middle East pretty close to 50 times. And the introduction really came around my time at Hard Rock Cafe. When I took over as CEO of Hard Rock Cafe, it was during a time of rapid expansion. And we opened up the cafes in Sharm el-Sheikh and Amman and Dubai and Bahrain, and we ended up opening 11 of these cafes. And with that, I got a really interesting introduction on a business side and a sense of a region of the world which I had not been introduced to. And I became aware of things that I had not really been aware of before. I developed sensitivities that I was not exposed to in the past. And I hear about an organization like this, which I've followed for some time, and I realize that it's not an organization to push a certain group or certain people or a certain agenda. It's really a civil rights organization. It's an organization that's really vested in being a human being with dignity, with being somebody who can be proud of who they are, with being somebody who can be respected, when you really go back to the origins, about people being able to identify their background, to go up and talk about their history, their culture, their religious beliefs in a non-judgmental way and not be worried about being threatened by it, that's really extraordinary to me. That's a civil rights organization to me. That's somebody protecting the rights. That's why this is an important organization. So for participant, this truly is a great honor. I mean, the company started 10 years ago by a gentleman by the name of Jeff Skoll. And Jeff was a philanthropist, social entrepreneur. He was the first president of eBay. And he was very, very lucky. And very, very smart. And very, very fortunate. In a short period of time at eBay, he, along with the founder, Pierre Midyar, built a company up, and he left. And he left with billions of dollars. And he decided at that point that he was going to spend the rest of his life making the world a better place. And it might sound corny to some people, and in Hollywood, some of the people said, best way to become a millionaire in movies is start with $1 billion and invest in movies. That's how you become a millionaire. He persevered, and he decided that it was storytelling that was going to bridge gaps. It was storytelling that was going to humanize. It was those individual stories that take facts and figures and turn them into a human condition. And I think that that thesis, which a lot of people kind of folded their arms at and said, I don't really know that that's going to work. After 10 years and 55 films, I think they've really come to see that you can tell powerful stories about important topics by reducing them to human interest stories, talking about the individual experience. So we're at its heart, we're talking about storytelling well told. And that's really at the heart of what we're trying to do at Participants. So the films that you saw in this particular montage, just a fraction of the ones that we've done, are really focused on a particular area which we think is an underreported area of storytelling. And that's the stories of people from a certain region or background of the world, which happens to be the Middle East. It's of an amazingly vibrant, extraordinarily beautiful, rich culture and geography that isn't really articulated properly in the media. And we think if we can show people what that experience is like, if we can break down these issues to personal stories, we have the ability for people to drop their guard, for people to really look at somebody else as a human being, not as somebody in opposition. So for us, this type of recognition, more than Academy Awards or anything else, from an organization like this that vests itself in that same human storytelling, that humanizing of a group of people, is the most important type of recognition we can get. So on behalf of Jeff Skoll, everybody a participant, and for everything that you're doing, we're so thrilled. We just want to say, although you're giving the honor to us, we just want to say thank you to all of you for the work that you do. We're humbled by it. We're thrilled by the recognition, and we will, by your side, continue to soldier on. Thank you very much.
Playing with my notes up here. All right. That's done, that's done, that's done. He's done, he's finished. Oh, wow. Now we have something really special on top of everything else. Behind every great man, there are other men, there are little dogs, cats, right? I have to tell you that when Maya Berry took over the executive director role at the Arab American Institute a number of years ago, it was a blessing for Jim, a blessing for us founders and board members, because she's a person who had already worked at the Institute. She knew us well, and despite that, she took the job. And she's made a big difference both in terms of rekindling the community commitment to AAI, but also reestablishing the bonds between AAI and the community, both the Arab American community and the broader policy community and leadership community here in Washington. So I would like you to give a great round of applause to greet Maya Berry, the Executive Director of the Institute and the Foundation.
Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. I'm truly humbled by the words that have been spoken tonight, and I apologize that I'm basically going to read off a list to you. But it is an important list, so I do hope that you pay attention to that. Each year at Gibran, we celebrate the best of humanity. We're honoring our awardees. We also celebrate our own community's talent and spirit. And before we can get to Senator Mitchell and Secretary LaHood and the incredible talent that's in this room, Senator Sununu and others, we have to have that field team in place. And we've really had a remarkable year last year and are looking forward to what's coming up in terms of the elections this year. And I thought it might be just important to share with you briefly some of the highlights we've already had. In Michigan, Arab Americans now represent a majority of Dearborn City Council, with Susan DeBaja being elected as the City Council President, though she was not running as an incumbent. This is a first in our community, and as a Dearborn girl, I'm very proud of it. Also in Michigan, State Representative Rashida Tlaib is seeking to take her public service from the State House to the State Senate. Please do clap. And Republican Party official named Nick Hedwatme is looking to join her in the Senate. In a landslide victory here in Virginia, businessman Sam Rasool won his race for a seat in the Virginia House of Delegates. In South Carolina, State Senator Vincent Shaheen is mounting a campaign challenge against incumbent Governor Nikki Haley. And someone we are all so very proud of, Juliette Kayyem, could become the next governor of Massachusetts. In Washington State, Damon Shadid, brother of the late Anthony Shadid, is running to become the first Arab American to serve as municipal court judge in Seattle. And I want to take a moment, that's right, I want to take a moment and acknowledge how pleased we are to have Anthony's family with us tonight. As you know, Anthony Shadid was a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist whose work showed the human and humanitarian impacts of war and foreign policies and created a narrative about the Middle East that had never existed before his reporting. He is also a proud Arab American who gave so much to his community. His mom, Rhonda, and his wife, Nada, are here with us tonight, as are his wonderful children, Lila and Malik. They're right here. Thank you so very much. We truly thank you for sharing Anthony's legacy with us. And Damon, as I noted, is not the only one in his pursuit to make history serving on the bench. In Ohio, Sherry Mikhail Madej is looking to become the first Arab American to serve as judge for Cuyahoga County's Common Pleas Court. In Paterson, New Jersey, who Jim calls the new Dearborn, and I reject that title wholeheartedly. Where the Arab American community has asserted itself as a growing political force, Arab American City Council President Andre Saig is the front runner to become the city's next mayor. These candidates are the very public servants our chairman, George Salem, was referencing. Them and others before them, including, as I said, so many of you in this room, have made it possible for our community to achieve the milestones we have, milestones our founders could not have imagined when the Institute had started. I hope that I will be able to be in the audience at a future Arab American Institute Gala to hear about the milestones that Naya, who again made me cry, thank you very much, or Lila or Malik are able to achieve. Thank you for helping us to create this wonderful institution. Thank you for your continued support of its work.
For those of you who are going to be in Washington for a couple days, let me recommend to you that if you have the opportunity, because the weather is supposed to be nice in the next couple days, go down to the Roosevelt Memorial. It's quite a compelling memorial, and also obviously the King Memorial, because they use the words of both Martin Luther King II and Jr. and Franklin Delano Roosevelt to tell their story. And I think that sometimes we forget, you know, we see the icons and we know about the city on the hill and we know about the four whatevers, but the real humanity of these great leaders is something that you touch when you have the opportunity to read their words. And someone knows of my affection for words, gave me a book of quotations of both Teddy Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt, because they couldn't remember which Roosevelt I really liked. But there's a line in here that I thought was very appropriate for this evening. It says, This is Theodore Roosevelt. When they call the roll of the Senate, the senators do not know whether to answer present or not guilty. That was pretty good myself. Maya, you took my notes. Maya, you took my notes. Oh, let me guess what's up next. Teamwork, it's great. You were in such a hurry. And she was the one worried about making up time, right? Hurry up. Okay, here we go. We did that. Okay. Oh, Andy, you're up. Andy Shalal. Let me read this thing about another Theodore Roosevelt one. Come on up, Andy, come on. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doers of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. Andy Shalal.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have the distinct honor of introducing an awardee tonight whose work and that of his whole family has affected each and every one of us in each and every one of our lives for the better. Just over 50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the March on Washington and delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech, where he shared with the world his beautiful vision of a society where all children, black, white, and brown, would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. A year after the speech, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed into law. Dr. King's children, including Martin Luther King III, whom we honor tonight, remain a testament to the power of activism in combating injustice, poverty, and inequality, and how much we can achieve when we act. So just as Dr. King reflected upon the inequality facing African Americans 100 years after the abolition of slavery, we today must confront the challenges that still plague our nation and polarize this very city 50 years after that march. As an immigrant from Iraq, I know my parents came to the United States with the promise this country provides. And I'm grateful they did, as there is much that this nation does so well. But we know we still have a lot of work to do. And that work that yet remains unfinished is why we are honoring Martin Luther King III. He has continued to carry on his father's legacy through his work on civil rights, his international efforts in support of peace, and his commitment to not rest, because he, like so many of us in this room, believe that we can and we must do better. I'm so pleased to recognize, on behalf of the Arab American Institute Foundation, Martin Luther King III and the entire King family for their sacrifice, for their vision, and for making our country live up to the values upon which it was founded. Please join me in welcoming Martin Luther King III to accept this very special recognition.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must do it because conscience tells him it is right.
Back in the late 40s, I would go to Woolworth to eat lunch, and I couldn't understand why I could sit down and eat, and yet the blacks had to stand up or take their food and leave. My conscience bothered me, and it broke my heart to see this indignity heaped on a human being, and I decided to do something about this wrong.
A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice.
People need to know your whole family were part of the movement. You and your sister and brother are not just some kids of an icon. You are actively fighting in the tradition of your father.
The task is not done. Their journey is not complete. Regressive stand-your-ground laws must be repealed. Federal anti-profiling legislation must be enacted. Comprehensive immigration reform must be adopted.
We should never adjust to policies and practices that profile people because of their color, their ethnicity, or their nation of origin.
Our Constitution begins with the words, "We the people, our family, your family, we all count."
I firmly believe that if we are going to make significant change within our own nation or within the world community, because we can't separate them any longer, is that we must start immediately and everywhere to teach and expose people to the philosophy of nonviolence.
If we want to create a truly just and decent society, then we must work together to rectify injustices against all people. We must hold fast to the dream.
Is his dream still a dream, or is it a reality?
Elements of my father's dream have become a reality, but a vast amount of it still has not been achieved.
We're still fighting voter suppression. 17 states now have some form of voter ID law.
Supreme Court today struck down a very important part of the Voting Rights Act.
700,000 New Yorkers stopped and frisked, overwhelmingly young Black and Latino.
The unemployment rate ticked higher from 7.2
U.S. minimum wage ranks 24th out of 25 rich countries, according to Bloomberg News.
The U.S. has spent 189 of its 235 years at war.
Today, poverty is worse than it was when Daddy started his Poor People's Campaign in 1968.
If he just arrived, he'd be highly disappointed, would hope that we were further down the road, but he also would be hopeful. He was an optimist.
I believe that even amid today's mortar bursts and whining bullets, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow.
We believe in impossible dreams, and we dedicate ourselves to working toward the fulfillment of those dreams.
We shall overcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Luther King III.
Good evening. And let me first begin by thanking God for bringing us all safely here this evening, and I hope and pray that our returns back to our respective destinations will be equally as safe. First to Chair Salem, to Jim Zogby, to Maya Berry, to everyone that is supportive of the Arab American Institute, and to my fellow honorees. It is always moving, and I was a little teary-eyed doing this video because, of course, my mom and sister are no longer in our midst. And so to see the family together, in a sense, and see that there are ways that we each are attempting to carry on the unfinished work. We do live in a great nation. What makes it great is that people have the right to articulate their point of view, even when sometimes we may not agree with their point of view. But that's what makes this a great nation. I am so thankful for my personal relationship with Jim Zogby and for all that he and his team have done over the years to continue to raise the consciousness of this nation and the world around issues that we still have a lot of work to do on. Now, on behalf of my father and my mother, I accept this award this evening. Both of them dedicated their lives to creating a better community. Dad and Mom wanted to eradicate what Dad called were the triple evils of poverty, racism, militarism, and violence. If we examine those three things, we certainly see that we've made strides around race, but we're not quite there yet. We still have work to do. But if we look at poverty in our nation today and even 50 years ago, poverty continues to escalate right on the streets of Washington, D.C. as we came in today, but not just Washington, Atlanta, Chicago, Los Angeles, all of our cities. We have homeless people in a multi-trillion-dollar nation. It makes no sense. It is because we, as our fellow human beings, have not decided that we're going to change that. I don't mean giving people just some food. That is good, and sometimes we have to do that. But I'm talking about creating opportunities so that people are taught how to fish, so that they can make a living for themselves and their families, and a sustainable living in this country, of all countries, with all of this wealth. We should be ashamed of some of the conditions that exist because we can and we must do better. I believe my dad and mom would be challenging us in that direction if they were in our midst. And that's perhaps why I said, although it's wonderful to come to these anniversaries, the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act that President Johnson signed, next year, the 50th anniversary of what used to be the Voting Rights Act, which is now sort of neutralized because the court chose to abolish or decimate limit Section 4 and decimate Section 5 of the pre-clearance provision of the Voting Rights Act. And yet, it's always interesting to me, we as a nation go around the world promoting democracy, and that's wonderful. But yet it's sad, or a sad commentary, that at home, we seem to be trying to suppress the right to vote. It seems like that's inconsistent. Yes, we should be concerned about voter fraud if we can find it. But to create new laws to restrict people from voting is certainly unconscionable. We can and we must do better. And as I think about militarism and violence, which is so prevalent, again, across our nation, I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to live in a state that just a couple of days ago our governor signed the most unrestrictive gun law bill that exists on the books today. So that now you can bring guns to church, you can bring guns to schools. You can bring guns to bars. Of all places, that's where all the fights start, in the bar. And so now you're saying, well, you can bring your gun, and that's supposed to make it better. It seems like we are a lot higher and can operate at a higher level than the lower level. And that level of, and the final point about that legislation is our governor and the legislature said, you can bring guns to all these places, but you can't bring them in the Capitol where we work. Don't you think that's a little bit inconsistent? To say, well, you can bring guns here, there, but you can't bring them where we work, as opposed to trying to protect all society. So I just ask you to pray for us in Georgia, and there probably will be other states that try to follow suit. I mean, we have a lot of good people, but we got a lot of work to do. Now, militarism and violence collectively, although we have created peace or attempted to create peace around the world, there's a lot of chaos we all know about, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's on the African continent, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Mexico, our neighbor, whether it's in our own neighborhood. Violence and militarism kind of are engaged at all times. I long for the day when we become a better nation. And the best, I believe, is yet to come. Technology has connected us around the globe. In a matter of seconds, we can find out information. Unfortunately, some of the technology is used for counterproductive purposes. But technology ultimately must be used for productive purposes to elevate the quality of living and life throughout our world. So I only wanted to suggest that Dad and Mom's work is not done. But each of us know that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first steps. And so we must continue to roll up our sleeves and work to make the world better. Yes, make our communities better. I mean, Dad used to tell us you can be either like a thermometer or a thermostat. And you may say, well, that is an interesting analogy. Please explain a little further. Well, a thermometer is a great device, but all it does is record the temperature. If it's 60, it'll say 60, 70, 70. If it's 20 or below, it'll say that. It even says some of them say below. They do. But that's a great device, but all it does is record the temperature. There's another device called a thermostat. The thermostat regulates the temperature. If it's too hot, you turn it down. If it's too cold, you turn it up. So in life, we've got to decide whether we're going to just record history or whether we're going to be a part of regulating what takes place throughout our lives, throughout our nation, throughout our world. I believe human beings must be engaged to help regulate what takes place in our communities. And finally, I share this, which I know the Arab American Institute is doing, but each of us can actively or must continue to actively engage in this way. When I was a youngster, my mom took me to her undergraduate institution, which was Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And at that college, there was a statue of the educator Horace Mann. It was not the statue that made an indelible impact on me, but the inscription under the statue or on the statue, which said, "Be ashamed to die until you've won a victory for humanity." Be ashamed to die until you've won a victory for humanity. You may say, oh my gosh, well, Brother King, that's grandiose. No, we can win victories in our neighborhoods. We can win victories in our schools. We can win victories in our places of worship. Some of us will win victories in our cities. Others may win victories in our states. Some of us may win victories in our nation. And then there are those who will win victories in our world. Basically, what those words say are be ashamed to die until you've done a little something to make the world in which we all must live a little better than it was when you arrived. Thank you so much, and may God continue to bless each of you always.
Thank you very, very much. I'm sure that you were wondering why I didn't ask you to put away your cell phones at the beginning of the program, as much as I enjoy listening to all the different melodies and your children's voices coming over the phone. Danny, Danny. Well, there's a reason for that, and that is for the first time ever, AAI wants to ask for your help tonight. We have a very, very important year ahead of us. This is an election year, and as I said, we're very, very invested in building our youth leadership in this country. And it's very, very important for us that we engage you in helping us fund the programs that are so essential to building our youth empowerment. Briefly, one is our internship program. Year-round, AAI places young people in offices all around Washington to become leaders, to learn how the process works so that they can carry that knowledge back to their schools and back to their communities. So our internship placements are very incredibly effective in terms of generating young people who are really committed to their community and to the values of this country. The second program is, as some of you know, we have what's called the Helen Abbott Community Service Awards, where every year we honor young people who have done great work in their communities with a scholarship. So we need help with that. And the third, of course, being an election year in 2014, is Yellow Vote. Yellow Vote is our biannual campaign to mobilize our community and their friends, as Maya said, from the local level through the national level, to help support campaigns. And so what we're doing for the first time is, if you have your cell phones, you can text a donation to text AAI to 56512. I notice you're all writing that down. That's very good. Text AAI to 56512. And that will enable us to continue the kind of work that we do. And in your books, they tell me, goodness, I guess not. Okay. Unless, Jim, you already took the coupon out of here and filled it out, but you did? Okay, thanks. So if you have the opportunity to look in your programs, there's a coupon in there where you can actually indicate what program you'd like to help. We need just between now and the election, we need about $25,000 to keep these programs going. And I know we have the capability to do it here, and I would really appreciate anything you can do to help us because we're helping each other. This is a common effort and a great effort for our community. So thank you very much for putting up with that. So now, back to Theodore Roosevelt. I'm now introducing Jim Zogby, who needs no introduction, but I like this one thing I found here that Roosevelt said that I think is very apropos of Jim. 9/10 of wisdom consists of being wise in time. Jim Zogby.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank all of you for coming and being with us tonight. And thank you to our awardees for gracing us with their presence. I always say about our awardees that when we choose people to honor, we're making a statement about the people we want to be, about the values we want to embrace, about the lives we want to live, about the contributions that we want to make. Our awards are aspirational. They're a statement about who we want to be. And each of you in your own way, and many of you, collectively, represent that. Public service, changing lives, improving, giving us rather the ability to move and to do good things. I was thinking about this as I heard everyone and was listening about your story, Senator Mitchell and Marty, your story, and the story of participant media and how it began and the work it's done. I was thinking about my own story. My dad was an illegal immigrant, 10 years in hiding. I remember when I first met Vice President Gore when I was working with him in the 90s. He said, "Tell me a little about you, I'll tell you about me." And I said, "Well, I know about you, but my dad's an illegal immigrant from Lebanon, and I'm sitting here with you in your office in the West Wing." That says something to me about the possibilities, Senator Mitchell, about America, about what America can be, what it can do for us, the chance it gives us to live our potential. Nowhere else in the world would that opportunity exist but here. And it does exist. And it exists for all of us. I mean, there are so many success stories in this room and in this community and in this country. But what your life and what your life and your family's life and what participant media remind us is that it doesn't matter how much we've succeeded. It's what do we do with that success for others? Do we make the world, as you said, Marty, a better place? Do we leave a mark? Do we make change? There was a quote from your dad that I found. I'd heard it just recently at the White House. Reverend Otis Moss, one of the great preachers of our time, was quoting this letter. So I went and found the letter, and I read it. It's a letter he wrote to your mom when he was in prison in Marietta, Georgia. And as Otis Moss tells the story, he says, "You know, we know the letter of Birmingham jail, but we don't know the letter from the Marietta jail." He says, "Hello, darling," which I love. He said, "I urge you to be strong in faith, and this in turn will strengthen me. I can assure you that it is extremely difficult for me to think of being away from you and my Yoki and Marty for 4 months. But I'm asking God hourly to give me the power of endurance. I have the faith to believe that this excessive suffering that is now coming to our family will in some little way serve to make Atlanta a better city, Georgia a better state, America a better country. Just how I do not yet know, but I have the faith to believe it will. If I'm correct, our suffering is not in vain." He gave much more than those 4 months. He gave his life. But we're far richer for what he did, far richer for what he gave us, and for what you continue to give us with the work that you do. And so it's about possibility, it's about achieving, but it's about giving back with what we achieve to make the world a better place. As I was thinking about Maya, thinking about the kids, thinking about what you said about the two cities we live in, the city here, but the city on the other side of Washington that many of us never go to, have never seen. It's there, but it's invisible to us. The poverty that is real doesn't exist in our mind. We don't see it, don't want to know it. I was thinking of a line that the president used one time in a speech that just sort of popped out at me, and it just struck when he was 2008 when he was running for president. He said he was in Texas and he was campaigning along the border, and he was talking about the poor children in the ghettos along the Texas border, and he said, "They are our children. They are our children." A very powerful sense that we have to have, that if the possibility is there that we can be a better people, that we can do something more with our lives, then do we not owe it to our children, all of our children, to do that for them as well? As I read Gibran, that's the message I get. It's a message about possibility, aspiration, about giving to others. And it's a message about looking to the future to make the world a better place. I was struck by tonight, by you, Senator Mitchell, by the incredible work done by participant media. I think that everyone who watched that little video was struck by the fact that, oh my God, that one, and that one, and that one. I mean, what didn't you guys make that is a socially relevant film that inspires us to do better? And seeing your family, seeing all of your siblings and your mom and your dad and what they've done, what they've given to us, it has to inspire us to do more and to be better. Before I close, I just want to also join everybody else in thanking Maya Berry and thanking Kristen McCarthy, who hasn't gotten any thanks, but is just a young person who's worked with us on this dinner and has done just an amazing job of, I told her today she was unflappable. She said, oh my God, I'm seething inside. But she never showed it, and she really did a great job. And Deborah, whose work on the videos always amazes me, she takes it in a couple of days and put that video together about the King family, and I'm so pleased with it. And I want to make one sort of out of the family, although he is really part of the family, recognition. And that's to somebody who's so dear to me, Paul Montero. Paul worked at the White House for 5 years representing our communities in the Office of Public Engagement. He made such a huge difference for us. Gave us a voice, a seat at the table, a voice when we didn't have one. And he's now gone on to become the director of AmeriCorps Vista. And we're so proud, Paul, of what you've accomplished and what you're going to be able to give back to the young people who want to now serve as you learned to serve with President Obama. And I thank you for what you've done and for what you're still going to be doing for our kids all over the country. Thank you so much. And I think I'm done. Oh. Yeah, I'm done. That's a hell of an ending, huh?
The best part is tonight's closing, and that is that we're going to have Naya come back up and sing for us. Right? You know, there's been a lot of talk about, Ray talked about it, Senator Mitchell talked about it, about parents and how important parents are in terms of defining values for us and educating values. And so I want to point out, she is not an orphan. She does have parents. And so Tala and Ismail, will you stand up, please? Okay. Naya, would you like to sing for us? Yeah, you want to grab your mic? Let's see, she's singing Asfur. That means bird, for those of you who don't understand my Jabali. Asfuratul min shabak. Okay, it's a great Lebanese song, isn't it? It's Lebanese, right? Gotta be, no? Anyhow, here she is, and what better way to end the evening, right? All right.
Before I begin, I'd like to say a few thanks to some people. Mr. Jim Burke, thank you for your sweet and kind words. Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. III, you inspire me like no tomorrow. I love you. Senator George Mitchell, thank you for peace in the Middle East. And the Arab American Institute. Right? Yeah. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm happy. This is such a pleasure. Thank you. عصفور طل من الشباك وقال لي يا نونو خبيني عندك خبيني دخلك يا نونو خبيني عندك خبيني دخلك يا نونو قلت له أنت من وين قال لي من حدود السماء قلت له جاي من وين قال لي من بيت الجيران قلت له خايف من مين قال لي من القفص هربان، قلتله ريشاتك وين؟ قال لي فرفتها الزمان، عصفور طل من الشباك وقال لي يا نونو خبيني عندك، خبيني دخلك يا نونو. آه 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 آه. نزلت عخده دمعة وجناحاته متكية، وتهدى بالأرض وقال بدي امشي وما في. نزلت عخده دمعة وجناحاته متكية، وتهدى بالأرض وقال بدي امشي وما في. ضميته ع قلبي وصار يتوجع لجروحاته، ضميته ع قلبي وصار يتوجع لجروحاته. قبل ما يكسر الحبس كسر صوته وجناحاته. قلتله انت من وين؟ قال لي من حدود السماء. قلتله جاي من وين؟ قال لي من بيت الجيران. قلتله خايف من مين؟ قال لي من القفص هربان. قلتله ريشاتك وين؟ قال لي فرفتها الزمان، عصفور طل من الشباك وقال لي يا نونو خبيني عندك، خبيني دخلك يا نونو. خبيني عندك، خبيني دخلك يا نونو. خبيني عندك، خبيني دخلك يا نونو. Thank you so much. Thank you.